Hello, everyone. I thought this time, instead of just explaining what you have to do for this last project, I would actually illustrate it by doing it myself. And then I can go through the slides and explain what you want to put on each one of them. So this way also you get to hear my voice for a change and see if it matches my picture or not. You can decide whether I sound like I look or not. So to begin, you're going to have the template, and I'm just using the template. I have not changed it in any way. I'm just filling in the information, and you're going to put a title slide here, and what I identified as the topic, artificial intelligence. It's the one I've been using throughout to illustrate all the assignments and what you're doing. And then the two lenses, humanities and natural sciences, those are the two I've chosen to work with. You only have to do two. So continue. So you'll put that in your slide. And as you notice, I kind of do this without a script, so sometimes I'll pause and think about what I'm about to say. Other times I just stumble through it. That's the way I teach, so I just wanted to let you see how I actually go about teaching. You can hear me this way. So the first slide you're going to end up doing then is an introduction. And in this, you're going to take the information you said in the discussion about why you chose this topic. And you start off by explaining what you're going to focus on. So I'm focusing on artificial intelligence as my subject, and I'm using the lenses of humanities and natural science. And then I'll tell you about why I chose this topic. You're going to put a couple bullet points in here. So, and for me, I always like science fiction. I read Philip K. Dick, who was the writer for the movie. Well, he didn't write the movies. He wrote the short stories in the novels that became the Minority Report in Blade Runner. So that's something I like to read. So this topic that I've always been interested in, and also wondering about the nature of consciousness. So you want to put your reasons for choosing this topic down, just a couple bullet points. You can make them in sentences, and I would encourage you to do that. It's not the best for doing a slide presentation, but for this assignment, make sure they're grammatical in terms of having full sentences when you present these. The next slide then gets more into the meat of the topic. And here you're going to put your topic and then the first lens you're using. So mine's artificial intelligence, and I started with the humanities lens. And what I've done is gone back through, and this is something I knew before. This is mind and consciousness is something that's been around since the ancient Greeks. Plato talked about it in terms of that the mind or the soul came into the body, and that learning then is a process of recovering all that knowledge we had before we were born. So it's an old topic. That was something I knew beforehand. Then you want to get into the points you've pulled out from the articles you've read. And in this case, you're just going to use the articles that were assigned. You do not have to go do other research. I had to illustrate the topic. But the two articles I found were one by Alan Turing, who wrote about computers being able to pass what has now become known as the Turing test, and that a computer could simulate and answer questions and then trick a human being into thinking it was a person as opposed to a computer. And Alan Turing is, if you've ever seen the movie The Imitation Game, he's the one who started really doing a lot with computers. What he did was develop computers in order to break the German codes in World War II. So he thought that computers could eventually be able to get to that point of demonstrating intelligence by answering questions that would make a person think it was a human and not a computer. John Searle is another philosopher who came along later, and he said, well, that's really what we call weak artificial intelligence. It's imitating what human consciousness is. But strong artificial intelligence is where we would have cognitive states like thinking, feeling, thoughts, ideas, that type of thing. He says that's not possible. So that's what the humanities is looking at. So I'm giving you the information, and then what you're going to do is write the facts and information you've learned. But then the final bullet point will talk about what the lens itself is looking at when it comes to this topic. So in my case, it's humanities examines the expressions of human experience. That's the nature of it. And so in philosophy, it debates whether other objects other than humans can have those same experiences. So you want to take what the nature of the lens is and apply it to that topic and how it looks at it. Next, you'll do the same thing with your second lens. So in this case, it's natural science. And one thing that I've discovered and read about was that IBM had been trying to replicate the neural networks of different animals. And the last I knew, they were up to cats. And this was a few years ago, but they could replicate all the brain's functions of a cat in terms of perception, actions, cognition, and do it with computers. And so this is a different way of looking at what artificial intelligence is. So then the natural sciences looks at how to prove and replicate a hypothesis, and it's using the natural world. So in this context, what natural science is doing is trying to figure out that physical perspective of what cognitive states are and then try to replicate them in a non-human machine. So what you've done, again, first bullet talks about in general what the topic is, and then the next couple of bullets are going to be the points you draw from the article, and then the last one is about what that lens says about the topic. So I'm looking at here that you understand what the lenses are and how then you would draw what that lens does when it looks at this topic. Then once you've done that, now we can take these two lenses and see how they're similar. That's what the convergence slide is. And so humanities and natural sciences converge. They're similar in that they're both thinking about the nature of human cognition. Might do it differently, but that's what they're doing. They're talking about the state, the mental states we have. And they are also talking about how this can be replicated. So the question for the humanities was whether it can be replicated. For natural sciences, it's how it would be replicated. And different questions, but it's the same idea of what we're doing and how this can be possible to replicate the human intelligence. Okay, so that's how they're similar. Then the next slide is going to be how do these two lenses diverge on this topic? And so the humanities lens, what it's looking at in most cases is looking at the experience we have. So I want to draw the distinction now. So if the last slide was how are they similar, this one's how are they different. So the humanities is about the experience. Natural sciences are looking at that physical process, the biology, the chemistry that goes into the brain, or the functional role. What is it that the brain is doing and how can we replicate that kind of role and function in a computer? So they're similar in the sense that they're both looking at replicating human intelligence, but they're different in what they look at. So that's what you want to draw for in the convergence and divergence slides. Make those clear. And then you want to put the two of them together. How is it both of these lenses fit together to look at this? And what can you gain by using these two lenses to look at the same topic? And in my case, what I realized is that when we talk about artificial intelligence and cognitive states that go into it, there's both a quantitative aspect, that physical aspect of the chemistry, the biology, the computer part of it. Sorry about that, phone's going off. And a qualitative experience, which is the way we experience what goes on in our head. The quantitative, the physical part, is what the natural science lens looks at, and the qualitative part is what the humanities looks at. So they both then, by taking this out, we can get a different view of these different sides. Okay, then at this point, what you've done is pulled in all of the information you've done for your various discussions on this topic, the KWL chart that you've done, the lens charts, so you're comparing them. You're pulling that information. You're not really getting a lot of new information here. You're just trying to present it. So you can use some of the things you've used in the past to work on this. Now, the next thing would be, how do I take this further? And this is the bottom part of your KWL chart, where you're writing the keywords and thinking about what else would I want to do. So you want to first start by saying, what is it you would like to know more about? Okay, so if I were to continue this, I'd want to know about the computer programming part of it. It's kind of an interest I have right now. So are those programs getting closer to being able to create artificial intelligence, since that seems to be the basis of it? So to do this, then I can ask two more questions. What questions would I ask? So one of these might be, what are the types of machines that are using artificial intelligence? And this is where your keywords come in. What keywords would I use to then go look for this answer? And for me, two of these that seem pretty obvious are robots and computers. So I just need to see you're putting the keywords into the questions and help you take it a step further. Other question I have is more of a philosophy one. It's, is this really worth pursuing? Are there risks that it's going to produce that could damage humanity? Are there more benefits for it? And this is where I would have the keywords of ethics and artificial intelligence. This is a big debate in philosophy right now. So that's where I would start to look. And what you want to do is say where you're going to take this, what questions might you ask, and how do those keywords fit into this? And then you're going to do a conclusion slide. And this really has two parts. The first part is, what is it you've learned about your topic, whether it's special education, world trade, space exploration, just a summary sentence of what it is you're doing. So I've learned how advanced technology has become, but still how far away we are from creating artificial intelligence. So that's what I've concluded about the subject matter I'm talking about. The next part are, what is it you've learned by looking at a topic from these different lenses? What does the two lenses help you see by using different lenses to look at a topic? So in this way, it helped me think about the nature of mind in different ways. I had the quantitative and the qualitative perspectives that I was able to draw out of there. And I also saw how one discipline can provide information for another one. If we're really talking about biology, does that really, and we have to have the same brain to say something is artificial? Well, that doesn't seem to be what we're doing with artificial intelligence, since it is computer based. So does that tell us, really, can we have this strong or weak AI distinction here? So what is it by using those lenses that you're able to draw out? Okay, so that's your conclusion slide. And then the final slide is going to be a reference slide. And I need to stress this. Two of these entries will need to be your assigned articles that are related to the lenses that we're giving in the project. You do not need to go find any other articles for this project. If you do, you need to add them to the list and make them APA format. These should already be done. So this is not due on the draft of this project, but you need to put those references down. Okay, and they have to be the ones that were assigned in the class, completed out. Okay, most of it's already written out. You need to find the URL and insert it there. Okay, so make sure you're going to have to do this. This is something we do last in most cases of research, but you will have to put in a reference slide, and I will check that eventually. But for now, for the first draft of this project, this does not need to be in there. You can add it if you want, but it doesn't need to be done. All right, I hope that helps clarify what you need to do for the project. And if you have any questions, just give me a shout.